Hello, hello. Okay, I'm doing it on this channel tonight because this is something very important that people need to understand. And like I said, not a lot of people can come on here and be vulnerable and transparent. But me, when it comes to this, I think it's important to be able to show the true testimony of God's work. Um, Nobody here is forcing you to believe in anything. You have your own free will to believe. God lives within me, and this is going to be quite the journey. So, if you're dressed comfortable, if you're in a comfy position, you got a snack, a drink, Kleenexes, you may need them because, Earth Angel, natural intuitive healer, is me helping people truly heal. And in order to do that, sometimes we have to sacrifice, God says, and that's sacrificing our stories to put out there to the public. Um, I've contemplated this well over, I would say about a month. Um, I'm not going to mention no names, but I had a conversation with the musician who's very inspiring, very humble, very intelligent, and very caring. And he was there in the time of need when I thought my closest friends or family would be there for me, but they weren't. And a complete stranger was there for me. So I just want to give a shout out. You know who you are, and I greatly appreciate you for that. Um, but yeah, on this healing journey, if you guys want to, grab a notebook, take some notes. The reason why I'm saying it is because even with my website at www.earthangelhealingpalacellc.com, this is what I do for a living. I'm a prophet of God, and I walk because I trust and believe in Him for what He has done for me. And when I take you on my journey, because a lot of people, they look at me and they're like, oh, well, how does she always do this? How does she always come through this? How is she never harmed? Well, God says, no weapons shall prosper against me, right? And God always has my back. And that is a true fact. Now, this journey that I'm going to take you on, episode one, it's going to start from when I was a little kid and the kind of lifestyle that I lived to give you a better understanding how He was there, how He gave me knowledge of what I was meant to do, and I'm talking all the way when I was 4 years old, okay? And it's going to lead up to something, but through this episode, like I said, I'm gonna start out from the time I was young. I knew I was different in my family, the way they treated me, the way they isolated me, the way they thought I was crazy, um, you know, tried to lock me in a mental institution thinking that I was crazy, but really, I was spiritually gifted. Really, I was a messenger of God. Really, um, on the spiritual plane, I things way before they did, and I knew the outcomes because God would show me. And it made for that family life to be a very hard, rocky life, having to be a loner, I had many friends, which salute to my friends out there who are my family, um, but I had to be that loner because I didn't feel a part of the family. I didn't feel like I belonged there, and God kept telling me, "You were born into a karmic family." And as time went on, I'm like, "What do you mean born into a karmic family?" And he said, you know, he took two people, my biological mother and my biological father. He brought them together to create the genius, the intelligent light worker, the chosen one, which is me. It's not me being conceited. This is me explaining how my mind was working because my IQ was so high. I was a jack of all traits growing up. But when it came to the family life, I never understood why me and my mother could not have a relationship, why my mother could not stand basically being in the same room with me, why she would never want to talk to me or comfort me. I grew up without a father. My father, he didn't want to be nowhere around, okay? Um and I had a stepfather, which yeah, that was chaos too, but we'll get into that because like I said, I'm giving you bits and pieces because a lot of people can't deal with this type of healing. And I had to be a goddess warrior. I had to be God's strongest warrior because He only gives us what He knows we can handle. And so the placement that He put me in is for that purpose. And that's why He said, you need to go and start this business because it's a business for me, my child. It's a business for me. You need to start this business. And I want you to call it Earth Angel Natural Intuitive Healer because I have given and anointed you the great communication and the gift as a healer. As we all know, God healed people, right? Well, He had granted me that gift. But going back to my family life, and this isn't here to sabotage my family, because mind you, I have not talked to some of my family members in over 20 years. Um, some of them 22 years. And, you know, it's sad, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? So grab your milk, drink your milk, become strong, and move along, right? That's what you need to do. So jumping back to when I was younger, it was they always looked at me as the rebellious kid. They always looked at me like as the troublemaker, right? I was isolated out. And so growing up in my family, it's like not having my biological father there because my biological father, um, he has four four kids that are biologically his. I have one full-blooded sister and one full-blooded brother. All the rest are half. And then I've got about 20 to 25 foster and group home brothers and sisters that I'm very close with to still to this day, even though rest in peace, our foster mother died about a month and a half ago. She was 84 years old. Um, but yeah, we'll get to that because my birth mother, who really wasn't there for me and really didn't give two shits about me, um, and couldn't even communicate. I mean, this is a person who couldn't even tell their daughter, I love you. Them 3 words that the kids want to hear, right? Couldn't even tell me them 3 words. But she could tell my brothers and my sisters, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, you know? And like I said, this isn't here to cut her down. This is explaining my spiritual journey in the testimony how God is real. So therefore I will not be giving names, and anybody who knows me and knows my family, they already know this, so this is no secret. Okay, but to all of you, it is a healing message. But anyways, getting back to growing up, I was always the loner. I was always the outcast of the family. Um, I remember times, you know, growing up that they got to do what they wanted to do, and me, I had to go and sneak out or, be that naughty kid just to have that peace of mind. Um, and as time went on, whatever was going on in the family dynamic at that time, um, I endured a lot of physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse. And I know that we've all had some type of component like that in our life. But like I said, I'm not ashamed. I am healed. I don't hold no resentment. I have forgiven all of them. Um, but this is You have to understand you are not alone, and God resides within us, and so you're never alone. Okay, so growing up, um, I never had that unconditional love from my family, period. And I wondered why. I kept saying to God, why? Why do they do this to me? Why are they treating me this way? Why don't they want me to be at family functions? Why don't they want me? Because they were all afraid. They were all afraid because for some reason they knew, or they sensed something was different in me, but they thought it was mentally. So they wanted to try to lock me away. And I remember when they put me in the mental institution there up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the counselor looked at me and said, after their evaluation, and said, "What are you even doing here? There's nothing wrong with you." And I said, "I tried to tell you that when she brought me here and you guys locked me in here." Um, but that was their perception. That's what they were thinking because they didn't know that this was God's work. God's work, the way he was doing things, was showing them something completely different. But they thought in the best interest that they were going to do it. Okay. And after my biological mother had done this, and this was a young age, I'm talking, I was between 8 and 10 years old, maybe. And I know I jumped from 4 to 8 or 10, but it'll kind of bounce back and forth. This is all about healing. This isn't about, ridiculing or causing havoc for anybody. But I remember when the counselor said, "Well, you're free to go." And I remember that they had my siblings and my mother come up there and said, "Well, she's free to go." And I said, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go back there." And they said, "Why?" And I said, I don't want to go back there." And I tried not to stir the shit pot for anybody, in that dynamic, but I said, "I don't want to go back there." So the counselor pulled me off to the side and said, "Why?" And I said, "Why be in a place where you don't feel loved, where you get treated like crap, you're being abused mentally, emotionally, physically, and sexually? Why would somebody want to stay there?" And that's when they brought me back into the room, and I remember they said, "Oh, well, we've decided we're gonna keep her. We're gonna keep her." And they kept me lined up for the foster home and the group home because there was some pretty dark, deep secrets that were coming out of the bag, as you would say, or out of the hat, because God was saying, "Shine your light on this. Speak your truth. I made you a goddess warrior, and you need to stand and fight. You need to put your foot in the throat of these demons, and you need to fight." And I kept saying, "But how do I do it by myself? How do I do it? It's just me. I'm just a child." And I would have these conversations with him, not like out speaking like I am to you, but I would have these conversations soul to soul with him. And as time went on, they put me back at my mother's house. Okay, they were trying to figure out to put me in the group home and the foster home, but they put me back at my mother's house. And the things that took place there were very cruel. If you read the Bible and the cruelty of some of the things that have happened, it's almost like deja vu for me because it's like I lived some of that stuff. And being in that home, being abused, physically abused, beaten, abused, um, being attacked, you know, I will never forget the day that God says, "Guess what? It's going to happen." Because the month of May is very significant. Now, pay attention when I say month of May. It's very significant through this whole journey. But this was back when I was a child. This started in May, and it was May 15th to be exact. something had really taken place, and I was being beaten, trying to fight back for my life. I was being whooped, beaten. I remember being punched, closed fist. And God says, the man who used fists to sin, the hand should be cut off, because it's better to have a crippled man than a man who abuses, right? And so it was all starting to come together. And if it wasn't for my neighbor who lived next to us in the townhome, um, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. That's how bad it had gotten. And I kept praying to God, make it stop, make them stop. God save me. God, do something, do something. And he did. He had the neighbor come, or he had the neighbor call the police, and the police came. And yes, I got the physical scars to show of the things that went down, because it was, like I said, I was in a karmic family. And a lot of people don't understand that people on this earth, there's millions of people walking around with these deep, dark secrets, these pains and these hurts, and they hold it in, and it blocks you. It spiritually blocks your blessings. But when the cops showed up, I remember them taking me down to the police station, and they locked me in this little room, and they talked amongst themselves and everything else. And then I had somebody come in and ask me what was going on, because the neighbor had gave their story, which I didn't know who had called. I trusted and believed that God put a stop to it, but I didn't know that he alarmed the neighbor to make this call. And that's when it stirred the shit pot even more, because the family thought that I called the cops on the situation, but I was being beaten. I was being whooped. How could I make that phone call? I mean, they were living in denial. So when the officer come in, they got my statement, and I didn't even shed not one tear. And he's like, "Well, most people who get taken away from their family are crying." And I said, "No, on the inside, I'm rejoicing. On the inside, I am happy as a buzzard on a shit wagon." And he looks at me and he's like, I said, "You don't understand, sir." I said, "I've been waiting to be free, to have that liberation, to have that freedom." And he just kind of looked at me like, there's something wrong with this girl. And I just went, name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I said, "Thank you, Father." And the reason why I'm telling you this is because people forget, in the time of mess, you pray to God. He's going to make that impossible possible, right? So with that situation, hold on, I need a drink. I get kind of choked up because of all of this. And you know, it's a healing process for everybody. And I don't give two shits what anybody thinks about me. I don't care what anybody wants to say when it comes to me telling my story of being healed, of my story of the testimony of God's power, of him being there for me, as me being his chosen child, to be that outcast, to be that loner, to be that isolated one. So just know that if you grew up as the loner, or the one that, you know, was pushed away from the family, that's because you were an extraordinary, unique gift from God. And the lower energies that lived within the families, they knew it. They knew it. They knew you were a chosen one. So give me a second. So let's get back to what we were doing here. We're gonna, like I said, it's gonna jump back and forth. It's gonna time lapse a little bit now. So when that incident happened at the police station, they put me in like in an emergency foster home. So any of you have been in a foster home, there's nothing to be ashamed about because that person was gifted from God to take care of you, to love you, to protect you. Okay? Them are God's earth angels. Okay? There's nothing bad about and there's nothing to be ashamed of being in a foster home or a group home. Them are God's earth angels to love you and protect you. So they put me in this emergency foster home, and in that time that they put me there, I became really close to this foster mom and actually started to feel that unconditional love. And it started to make sense now of everything that God was telling me. It was truly shining through this unconditional love with this woman. And we went through the court battles and stuff because my biological mother had seen this woman taking care of me and nurturing me and loving me unconditionally. And I don't know what she was feeling because I'm not her. I tried to speak to her about it and it's a cut off conversation. But anyways, she had this vendetta against this woman because this woman was showing me love, was showing me affection, truly cared about my well-being, and vowed to God that nobody would ever hurt me, no weapon would prosper against me, that I would be in this bubble. Little did I know that that was God's earth angel because she was a minister at the church. Okay. So I got ripped out of that foster home. I got ripped out of that foster home and I got put in another one. And again, I got ripped out of that one because they believed in God. And we willingly went to church. We willingly, like, I craved that knowledge. I wanted to know more. I wanted to grow closer to him. I wanted more, more, more. And for whatever reason, they yanked me out because, like I said, she had a vendetta of these two people for some reason. So then I went to the group home. It was a co-ed group home for the girls and boys. And all the girls stayed, I think it was 8 of us girls on this side and 8 boys on this side, and then, yeah, they had the different staff members and stuff. And I was there for, I wanna say 3 years, and I'll tell you, she was a great group home mother, but I was a rebellious at that time. I started losing hope, I started losing faith, started rebellion really bad, because I just didn't understand why somebody who gives birth to you cannot love you like she loves her other children. And it wasn't making sense to me. And then again, you know, taught us the work ethic and everything else. We'd have to go out to the big horse barn and, deal with all 100 and some horses, cleaning, feeding, grooming, all of that. Because we were put way out in the sticks, so that nobody could come around. And yeah, I was very rebellious, and it kicked in to where I started losing hope. I quit believing in God because nothing seemed to be going right. It's like every time somebody else wanted to put that love out there for me, somebody was right in there to sabotage it. So mark that on there, note that, because that's going to go even further and deeper. Um, so yeah, I ran away from that group home. Um, beat up people at that group home. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like I said, I lost all hope because it was like I couldn't sit down and have that focused time where I lost my hope and faith in God, and I quit believing in Him, and I did some pretty mean things. I mean, I'm not condoning it and I'm not saying, but I could throw down with the best of them, whether it's male or female, because I had to live street smart. I had to do what I needed to do to protect myself. Well, about this time, about 13, yeah, about 13. Um, and I don't recommend this to anybody. I'm not saying go out and do this. So anybody who's watching it, I forbid you to do this. Um, but we look for love in the wrong places. And I was a baby, end up having a baby. And I remember when I got pregnant, I didn't know right away. I started feeling really weird. And my best friend's mom, she was an RN, rest her soul. I love her so much. She says, and they called me Baby Donny. Baby Donny, you come live with us while you're pregnant. So I did. Well, that was my biological mother's best friend. So that stirred the shit pot there. It kind of like sabotaged their relationship because the biological mom couldn't figure out why her best friend would take in the pregnant daughter who was this troubled adolescent who was out of control, who was this and who was that, and she protected me. And I remember, because this is going to resonate with some people who have gone through this, that need that healing, to need that understanding that yes, I was a baby having a baby, and that baby had to go up for adoption. I wasn't old enough. I I wasn't old enough. It was the adult that made the decisions, signed the papers. I wasn't old enough to take part in this. And, you know, I remember having to take the car ride up there and sit there. And I'll tell you, that's a whole nother episode on its own. So I'm going to jump off of that story, but I'm not condoning anybody to go out there. What I'm saying is there is a lot of trials and tribulations and trauma in one person's life that you can't understand, okay? That people don't see. And it's not because they're masquerading, and it's because how do they bring that type of deep healing to the surface? How do they talk about it? Yes, go get professional help, talk to a counselor, speak to a counselor. I did that. Um, but when I found out that my counselor was communicating with my biological mother and they were breaking that confidentiality, it's like instantly I shut down, I went cold, I shut everything off and said, uh-uh. So anyways, as we were going, um, kept going, I would go back and see my first foster mother, like I said, the one that supported me and loved me unconditionally and taught me things. And we went on vacation. She's like, I don't care how much trouble I get into. I'm taking you on vacation. You need it. And we dipped out. We jumped in the vehicle, we dipped, and it was just like it was so comforting to have that one-on-one time with her. And rest her soul, rest in peace. She's like I said, she's gone now. She's been gone for about a month and a half. But rest her soul, because it was like that freedom and liberation of, wow, here's a grown adult saying, I don't care. I'm willing to make that sacrifice for you. You need this. Let's go. So anyways, To this day, I am healed from the things that have happened. Some people don't want to take accountability for the things that happened in the presence of the people that they had watch me, um, and take care of me while she was at work. Um, some people don't want to take accountability for the hideous crimes that they committed, which is okay because God says, forgive them, right? Forgive them. Don't forget about it, but forgive them. And with you forgiving them, it heals you. It takes that burden off of you and it lets God go and deal with it in his own way. So the thing is as the spiritual gift and blessing that God had given me had transpired, now we're gonna jump up. Like I said, this is gonna be kind of chaotic because there's certain components to this whole life's journey, and he's telling me Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 and 16. So hold on, let me see. Let me see. I don't know why he's calling it. Hold on. 80. That's Matthew, Mark 7. Is important for whatever why he's bringing me to it. He wants me to read it to you. Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 and 16. He's saying, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered in thorn bushes? Are figs found on thistles? But every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. So there's a reason why he was bringing me to this, because 7 is his God's number, right? Father, you have brought me to Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 and 16. And this is letting them know that even though they are your family, the ones closest to you, God is saying they can be that ravenous wolf. Be careful. Wow. Because it comes in here and says, you hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will clearly go to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give the dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. Thank you, Father, for showing. You see what I mean? He brings this to me and he tells me, because this is part of the healing journey. Now, most people would be like, yeah, right. Okay, how'd you know that? Well, God brings it to me. And so this is the healing journey, that the things that you have been through are not discredited. Everything that caused you pain is meant to give you great understanding and growth to have that happy, harmonious life with God, right? So he's wanted me to kind of take you a little further, a little further, because, and like I said, this is where it gets a little emotional for me. As you can tell, when it comes to the family dynamic, I broke that generational curse because I have given my kids the unconditional love that I could as a single parent, pulling double duty as mom and dad. Yeah, my marriage did not work, okay? Like I said, and it was because I was taught he's saying I was taught not how to love properly, so I couldn't hold that sacred marriage together. And he says that that was a karmic marriage anyways to teach me a lesson, which I understand that. Okay? And here we are. My children are growing. My youngest will be 21 next month. Um but my children are all growing adults now. So they're wanting me to bring you on this healing journey because we all turn to the darker side of not trusting and believing. We all turn to that darker side, whether it's to addictions of whatever it may be, where we cause hurt on others or others hurt and betray us. Um, or something mentally and emotionally scars us so bad that we sabotage other relationships. The thing is this one that I'm about to bring forward to you has been one of the hardest journeys because remember when I told you at the beginning of this video that God only gives, his goddess warriors and his warriors only what they can handle, right? Well, the thing is here's where the true testimony of God comes in. Because I went down that dark rabbit hole. I went to go better myself, and my second son was signed over to a family member because I went to go better myself. And they wanted to paint me as the villain, like I wanted to neglect him, like I didn't love him. And that's not true. I was trying to better myself, but they wanted to do everything they could. And that's why he said, take that speck out of your eye and take that log out of your eye, because the speck that I had in my eye at the time, my family had the big log that was clouding their vision. So with that whole thing went through, um, then when I was on my third child, I was diagnosed. When I was giving birth to her, I couldn't get her to come out naturally. I was doing everything that they said. I was trying to get her to come out naturally, and they said, "Ma'am, stop pushing." I said, "Why?" They said, "Because." And my heart dropped. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then the doctor said to me, "You need to get this baby out in this next hour, or we're taking you in for a C-section." I said, "Why, doctor?" They said, "Because trying to give birth to your daughter, we see that you have cervical cancer, stage 4 cervical cancer." Never knew because I didn't have a mother to teach me them things. I didn't have a mother who cared about my health or my well-being. I never knew that having intercourse at a young age can activate the cancer cells. I didn't know how long it was going on, but it made a lot of sense to the feelings and the way my body felt, and trying to listen to my intuition telling me. So 36 hours of pushing, I pushed my hardest to where I broke the blood vessels in my eyes, in my face, all down my chest, down into my stomach area to push to get her out. And once she was born, it was like the rejoice of, thank you, God, she's here, she's healthy, you know, she's doing wonderful. And it didn't kick in until later on, that night of, okay, now what? Now what? And I was like, well, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to hand it over to God because God will help me figure this out. Right now, I'm going to enjoy my daughter. Okay. And as that time went on, let's put it this way, the time went on, We got out of the hospital, went to go in for my 6-week checkup and take further steps of what I was going to do. And the doctor says, sorry, you're a week pregnant. I said, what? Yeah, you're a week pregnant. So they did the ultrasound and he was the size of a pencil lead. I was a week pregnant. I thought, great, now what are we going to do? This doctor that delivered my baby told me that I have cervical cancer, stage 4. The other doctor told me that I would never be able to have children again. That would be it. But here I'm at my 6-week checkup and the doctor's saying, guess what? You're a week pregnant. That's God's doing. That's God's doing. Because somebody told me that I couldn't, and God says, oh, yes, you can. The bad part is through this next pregnancy, I had to go through the whole pregnancy with what they found out was cervical and uterine cancer. And I thought, what what do we do? You know, they put me on bed rest. They put me on bed rest and everything else. And I thought, why? What is going on? You know, is it because I stopped believing in God? Is it because I became rebellious? And they're telling me to back up to 1998, October 6th of 1998, while I'm talking about this. Um, Not only that, but I had a near death experience when I was pregnant with my other daughter. She got stuck in the fallopian tube. I was almost 8 weeks. Rest your soul in peace there, cousin, because at the time I was with my cousin and I went to go get up for work in the morning. It was like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Went into the bathroom to go take the shower, and I have to back up because God's telling me back up and tell this story too, because of all the hurt and pain that we carry, right? You're going to understand once I jump back forward. So I woke up to go take my shower and I fell to the bathroom floor. I didn't know what was going on because I didn't know that I was pregnant. Now, mind you, God made me very fertile, okay? Because I had 3 miscarriages and 1 tubal ligation. Now, the daughter that I'm talking about, October 6th of 1998, was my tubal ligation, and I didn't know it at the time. But when I dropped to the floor, I hollered for my cousin, which she's no longer here. She passed away from lung cancer and brain cancer. Um, but she come running in, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know. I can't walk. I can't move." I said, "God, you got to help me. God, God, please, please let me get up and get to the doctor." And I remember at that time, I felt this warm sensation come over my body, and I was able to stand up. And I walked out, jumped in the Impala, and I flew to the hospital. It was 20 minutes away, kicked it down full force, drove myself to the hospital in this condition, went in there. They did an ultrasound and they said, prepare the operating room right now, right now. I thought, what do you mean? What's going on? And I remember them saying to me, guess what? You're pregnant and your tube is rupturing and it's going to kill you and the baby. I said, God, please don't do that. Please, please, no, please. So they went in, and unfortunately, they had to take my daughter's life. I have her pictures. I have her pictures. They gave me her pictures and everything else in color with the ultrasound and everything. And I said, God, fix that tube, fix that tube. Well, mind you, the testimony of God, he fixed that too, because now we're gonna jump back to the pregnancy where I was a week. And through that whole pregnancy, I was bedridden. It was the most that I ever gained in my life. I've always been a small, petite person, very strong. Don't underestimate that. Um, but that's the most weight I ever gained during this pregnancy. And I kept telling the doctor, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Why is this like this?" My other three pregnancies weren't like this. And he said, "Well, it's part of what's going on." I was like, "Okay." So I remember my little sister, I remember the day that her and I were there, and it was the end of March. It was after we had just had an F5 tornado come through, and we were dealing with the hurt and pain and the loss of our loved ones and friends and everything. But I remember I asked for a ride because I couldn't drive. My belly was so damn big. Um, I couldn't drive, and I asked her to take me to the bank so I could make my car payment. I'm standing in line, and there was like 4 or 5 other people in front of me, and all of a sudden I feel this, and I looked down. I said, "Hey, you're not getting your car payment today. I gots to go." Went out to the vehicle, told my sister, "Take me home. I need to go home and shower." And she says, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I think my water broke." She's like, "You need to get to the hospital." I said, "Take me home so I can take a shower." So she took me home, and I got cleaned up, did my shower. I said, I think you need to take me to the hospital now because I was holding my son's little butt in my hand. And at the time, I didn't know it was a son, okay? I just knew I was holding this little butt in my hand, and the pain started coming on significantly. And I said, "God, please, please make everything be okay. Let it be okay. Let me get to the hospital." And she's like, "I told you, you dumbass, you should have went to the hospital right away." I said, "No, I couldn't stand that feeling." So, anyways, on that story, get to the hospital, and they rush me in to the emergency room operating table, and because it was in my notes or whatever, so they did a cesarean, um, to get him out. His head was stuck underneath my ribs. That's how tiny I was, with my structure. And his head was stuck underneath my ribs, and they're pulling him out, pulling him out, pulling him out. And I hear, and then I gasped for air because of the pressure, because broke my rib trying to get him out. And yeah, he had the cord wrapped around twice. So there was a reason why God was having me hold it, you know, and make it from coming out naturally. So then after that he was born, right there when they had me open, they said, "You have cervical and uterine cancer. We need to take care of this now." Okay. That's all I could say is okay. And that's when it started a journey of pure havoc. And hold on here. Hold on here. I'm gonna get this here. Hold on. Mhm. Anyways, hold on. I'm looking, guys. Hold on. Mm, um, hmm. Oh my goodness. This is why I try to have it all in one spot, but I'm getting it. Just be patient here. Just be patient. Okay. Where'd it go? There we go. All right. So if people who are watching who get easily faintish and everything else, I advise you now turn away. Don't watch this. But I'm going to show you at that given point of what was happening in my life, going through all the turmoil and things that I've already gone through of all that hurt and pain. Right there. That was the start of the journey of the cancer. And I fought this battle, which people would not understand, people would not see, people would not know because that's how strong I am. But I fought that battle 14 years. Last, well, this May 5th coming up will be 1 year that I went through a 14-hour surgery. Mind you, I had 193 surgeries, lost 8 inches of intestine, large intestine, 6 inches of the small intestines. That was just the beginning, people. Bending over to take a towel. Boom, came out, right? And this is what I went through at that beginning. The reason why I'm bringing this part of it here, here's God's true testimony. So you see this grenade tube right here, and this one right here, and this is my intestines sticking out over here. Okay? The thing is the nurse needed to take that tube out. And I'm a little quiet because of the fact of just remembering how this all took place. But she went to go take that tube out, and it was like a horror movie. Blood was shooting everywhere, all over her, all over the walls, all in that room. And I looked at her and I said, "Ma'am, I'm leaving this world now." And she says, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am, ma'am." She turns around and hands me the towel and she says, "Press this towel on here." I said, "Okay." She says, "Sit up." So I sat up. I was holding on there as tight as I could. And I looked at her and I said, "Ma'am, goodbye." Boom, passed out. I was gone, but I could hear them yelling, "Code blue, code blue, code blue. Get everybody out of here. Get everybody out of here. Get the cops, block the door off, code blue." And that's the first time that I died. And I mean, I died. I saw God at the end of the tunnel. Everybody has their own envisionings of it, but he was standing there going, "Get back there. I have a mission for you." I kept feeling something on my third eye going like this. And then I felt It was like being kissed on my third eye. 8 minutes later, my eye kinda opened and I went back out. Oh, I hear, tip her backwards." Mind you, I lost 6 pints of blood, 6 bags of blood in the human body, in that room, sitting on that bed in front of that nurse. And I heard them say, "Tip her back, tip her back." I had just enough blood in my body to keep my heart pumping and my brain working. And I felt this weird pinch, almost like when I seen God there telling me, I've got a mission for you. You need to go back. It is not your time. You are going to come through this." I felt this pinch on my leg. And at the time, I didn't know because I couldn't physically open my eyes. My limbs were dead. I couldn't move. Okay. And when they brought me back, they made an inch incision in my main artery in my leg to pump 6 bags of blood into me. And that's where I'm gonna leave off on this story for tonight. We will do episode 2 tomorrow because it gets more in depth. So, spiritually, this is a message for you guys. You truly need to trust and believe He is real because I have died twice, almost 3 times. That first time in '98, but through this cancer journey, I died twice. So yes, you can go through a lot of pain and a lot of havoc and everything else, but when you fully trust and believe in Him and you know that you have been given a mission and a purpose on this life, it doesn't matter what anybody fucking says. You understand me? It does not matter what anybody says. You do what you're supposed to do. You listen to God. And forgive me, God, for swearing, but you know how angry it makes me when people take life for granted, when they take beautiful life for granted because I have fought for my life. Episode 2, I will show you PIC lines, chemos, radiations, surgeries, infusions. Yeah, I went through all of that. So these people who are out there knocking my name down, saying things, making this fake shit up and everything else, I forgive you. I forgive you because you have to deal with God. My mission is to help people heal, to pull out them dark things and heal. So I'm sending lots of love and light. And like I said, we will do episode 2 tomorrow of the true testimony of God. And we will go in deeper because I am a walking testimony of God. Not once, not twice, but 3 times from God. I have completely died twice, and He's brought me back. So just know that He is real. Know that He lives within us. Sending lots of love and light. Peace.